Questions 1 to 5 refer to the following article. Fort Lauderdale's Nautical Extravaganza. The city of Fort Lauderdale in Florida, dubbed the yachting capital of the world, has hosted its International Boat Show for more than 60 years. It's the biggest event of its kind, featuring almost every type of boat imaginable, with even more watercraft than what you would find at similar large-scale shows in Dusseldorf or Genoa. Divided into 5 separate zones covering a total area of over 3 million square feet, the venue for the International Boat Show is absolutely enormous. To shuttle people around, it has its own transportation network of water taxis and buses. Apart from boats and everything you need for a boat, the show features a number of other attractions as well. These include diving performances, sport fishing demonstrations, and places where kids can take part in boating and fishing-related activities. On display is a huge variety of boats, such as high-performance boats, sailing yachts, motor yachts, catamarans, ski boats, trawlers, inflatables, canoes, and executive superyachts. The show spotlights more than $3 billion worth of watercraft, engines, devices, and accessories, all made by major marine manufacturers and boat builders. Despite fluctuating economic conditions over the past few decades, yacht sales have been on the rise. Yet the number of smaller boat shows has dwindled. So, more buyers are heading to the big shows like the one in Fort Lauderdale. Consequently, more and more tickets are being sold every year. The growing success of the Fort Lauderdale show, however, could also be a result of its ongoing marketing campaign in and outside the U.S. Additionally, the organizers have made changes with a view to protecting the environment. For instance, it partnered with a company called Native Energy to work toward reducing electricity usage during the show. It also partners with purveyors to use locally sourced food products, and all food and drinks sold at the event are served in biodegradable disposable containers. Questions 6 to 10 refer to the following article.
The world's priciest private residence. The Ambani family wanted their house in Mumbai, India, to be designed just the way they imagined it. They contacted the architecture firms Perkins & Will and Hirsch Bedner Associates, based in Dallas and Los Angeles, respectively, and plans were drawn up for what would be the largest and most expensive home on the planet. The 27-floor skyscraper named Antilla cost approximately $2 billion to construct and is remarkable for its glamour, eccentricity, and extravagance. The Ambani residence is an incredible 550 feet high with 400,000 square feet of interior space. It cost more to build than a hotel or high-rise of similar height, as the family had requested that the design of each floor be entirely different. They also selected a wide range of styles so that no 2 rooms would look alike. At the same time, they asked for consistency as well. That is because they did not want to experience a dramatic change when leaving one room and entering another. Arriving at the house, guests are directed to one of the parking lots on the building's first 6 floors. In the lobby, they see lounges and 9 elevators. Silver railings alongside stairways lead to a ballroom with a ceiling that has several crystal chandeliers. For entertainment, there is an indoor-outdoor bar as well as powder rooms and even an area for security guards to relax. The patio near the outdoor swimming pool and yoga studio is lavishly decorated with plants. There is also an ice room where the Ambanis and guests can cool off amid artificial snow flurries. Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani, the owner of Antilla, is chairman and managing director of Reliance Industries, India's largest private sector enterprise. He is also the richest person in India. He has said that his new home has more floor space than Louis XIV's palace at Versailles. His plans for the residence include using it for corporate entertainment.
Questions 11 to 15 refer to the following article. Annan & Company. When brothers Benjamin and Edward Annan started Annan Flag Makers in New York City, the American flag was only 70 years old. The year was 1847, and they had joined their father's business of sewing flags for merchant ships on the city's waterfront. They were also establishing what would become a prosperous company and part of American history. Flags sell best during times of intense patriotism, which is why they were in such high demand in the North during the American Civil War between 1861 and 1865. Toward the end of the war, Annan's business started booming due to this demand. It was also the first time in America that large numbers of flags were being bought by regular citizens, who would proudly display them on their land and homes. This surge in demand for flags came during the latter years of the American Industrial Revolution. Many inventions were created throughout this period of technological innovation. One such example was the sewing machine. Annan was equipped with several and could therefore produce far more flags at a much faster speed compared to hand sewing. With greater production capacity, Annan grew quickly, and by 1917 it was ready for another boom in business, triggered by America's involvement in World War I. To cope with ever-growing demand for its products, the company built its flagship plant in Verona, New Jersey. Having a rich history and reputation for quality, Annan came to be known as America's leading flag maker by the mid-20th century. It now boasts the broadest range of flag products, largest inventory of flags, and best service. To this day, the company remains family-owned. It employs over 500 people and continues to take pride in its history and product quality. Annan flags have been used in many notable events, including every U.S. presidential inauguration since 1849, expeditions to the North Pole, South Pole, and Mount Everest, and the Apollo 11 mission to the Moon. Questions 16 to 20 refer to the following article. Welcome to the world of cloud computing. Cloud computing is a way of accessing data through services that run on the Internet. One example is email. Whereas software programs like Outlook and other desktop applications have traditionally been used locally for accessing email, services such as Google's Gmail allow users to view their messages anywhere online through a browser. Since 2007, other services such as word processing, photo sharing, and presentations have moved into the cloud computing arena. If you have uploaded a video to YouTube or a photograph to Instagram, you are already using it. You may also be using Google's Office environment in the cloud, which includes word processing and presentation applications. On the business stage, cloud computing has become very popular, and many companies have sprung up to provide cloud-based services. These solutions are focused on making services as simple to use as possible. But as solution providers race to develop the ultimate cloud platforms, security concerns related to storing personal data online have also grown. For many, however, the benefits seem to outweigh the risks. According to a survey by Microsoft, 48.3% of respondents cited lowered infrastructure costs as a chief benefit of cloud computing. Another 47.7% believed it was necessary for collaborating globally, and 38.4% felt it would help them more quickly respond to business demands. Companies around the world have adopted cloud computing despite the potential problems it poses. Every aspect of IT infrastructure has been affected by this change, from service providers and developers to end users. Not only has this increased the volume of work in the IT industry and thus the number of jobs, but it has also raised efficiency. Consequently, the cloud can be considered environmentally friendly as well, since higher efficiency results in energy savings. Unquestionably, cloud computing is revolutionizing the way the IT world operates. While companies and organizations of all sizes across all sectors are drawn to its advantages, it is clear that a new stage in the evolution of the Internet is underway. Questions 21 to 25 refer to the following article. New York pizza versus Chicago pizza. American pizza generally falls under two categories, the thin New York style and the thick, cheesy kind in Chicago. Some may ask which one is preferred in Italy, and the answer is neither. In fact, Italians also divide pizza into two categories, pizza made in Italy and pizza made everywhere else. Pizza owes its existence to Italy as well as many other countries. In its basic form, it is a type of flatbread made of flour and water, which was eaten long ago by the Greeks, Phoenicians, and Egyptians. Some people in Italy later topped a similar kind of flatbread with herbs and olive oil. Thanks to the water buffalo being introduced from India to Europe long ago, mozzarella could be added. Another important ingredient, the tomato, found its way onto Neapolitan pizzas in the 1700s and early 1800s. Pizza would soon enter the Americas, and there it would take two distinct routes. Even though people in Italian-American neighborhoods of Chicago had already been making pizza for some time, it was New York that became the proud home of America's first pizzeria, Lombardi's, in 1905. At this establishment, a thin-crust pizza with a light spread of tomato sauce and cheese would become the New York-style pizza of today. It's doughy rather than crispy, and it's typically topped with pepperoni. Its thin crust is hand-tossed and similar to the traditional Neapolitan-style pizza. Chicago pizza, on the other hand, has a thick layer of dough that includes cornmeal and olive oil. The dough is placed in a deep pan and par-baked, a technique used to partially bake bread or dough before quickly chilling it, which gives the crust a spongy texture. The crust is covered with cheese, meat, and vegetables such as Italian sausage, mushrooms, and red onion. A thick spread of tomato sauce is then added, which is topped with cheese for an additional layer of flavor before cooking. As you can imagine, this pizza can be quite thick, so a knife and fork are recommended when eating it. Questions 26 to 30 refer to the following article.
Journey to the Earth's last continent. Are you passionate about adventure and willing to travel far to find it? If your answer is yes, then Antarctica might be just the place for you. Home to the South Pole and known as the last great frontier, this cold land is almost entirely covered with an ice sheet that is kilometers thick in places. It is also the driest, coldest, and windiest desert on the planet. Not surprisingly, only a few thousand people, most of whom are researchers, live there for parts of the year. And although it has no permanent residents, some hardy plants and animals put up with its harsh conditions, including species of penguins and other birds, seals, and whales. Because its extreme climate is so unwelcoming to humans, Antarctica remains pretty much untouched by mankind. This appeals to adventure seekers who prefer to get off the beaten path of commercialized tourism and go someplace far away and different from anywhere else. In addition to taking in its breathtaking landscapes, many travelers go to watch whales and observe the other incredible wildlife that survives there. Any sightseeing trip to Antarctica must be taken during the continent's warmest months between November and March, its only tourist season. Getting there is never easy. First, you have to go to Argentina, Chile, South Africa, Australia, or New Zealand, and then board a flight or cruise ship. Both transportation options can be quite expensive and, due to continuous high demand, booking either can be a challenge in itself. For a cruise, $4,000 is considered a bargain. Expect to pay more if you prefer airplanes to boats. Hiking, iceberg climbing, and sea kayaking can also be arranged, all available at an extra cost, but worth the money if you want to fully experience this incredible land of ice and solitude. If none of these highlights interests you, the continent's annual 100-kilometer ice marathon might. For a run on the ice, head to Punta Arenas, Chile, from which you will then be flown to the location of the race's starting line in Antarctica's interior. Registration for the marathon costs €9,900.
Questions 31 to 35 refer to the following article. A Brief History of Hollywood. Hollywood, California has long been the home of movie stars, renowned directors, and blockbusters. The famous Beverly Hills and Sunset Strip are nearby, and as said many times before, the streets are paved with dreams. But why there and not, say, someplace in Florida or Nebraska? Located in the foothills of the Santa Monica Mountains, the land where Hollywood now stands was once home to Native Americans. By the late 1700s, not long after Spanish explorers arrived in the region, they had been relocated to Christian missions. Around a century later, the area was a thriving agricultural community, with crops ranging from grain to pineapples. During the 1880s, a man named H. Wilcox bought property that includes what is now known as Wilshire's Miracle Mile. His wife named the area Hollywood. The now famous La Brea tar pits, whose rich fossil deposits would attract curious scientists from around the world, is located in this tract of land. What Wilcox envisioned was a flourishing community, so he began selling pieces of the land to wealthy Northerners who were looking to build homes where they could spend winters. Before long, large houses, churches, schools, and a library all helped to characterize Hollywood as an affluent community. It was designated as an official city in 1903, but its independence was short-lived. Due to water shortages, the city of Hollywood was in 1910 forced to become a district of Los Angeles, which had enough water to share. Hollywood's first film studio came to town just 1 year later, opened by the Nestor Company in what had been a struggling tavern. Soon, directors such as Cecil B. DeMille and D.W. Griffith came to make their movies, attracted to the area's open spaces and favorable weather. Thereafter, Hollywood became a boomtown, with movie theaters, banks, and fancy restaurants catering to the area's fast-growing film industry and its stars. Today, Hollywood is a diverse community with many historic buildings. While most stars these days prefer to live in Beverly Hills instead of Hollywood, a lot of studio work is still done in this one-of-a-kind town. Questions 36 to 40 refer to the following article. Country of Origin Labeling. Country of Origin Labeling, COOL, is a U.S. law that requires retailers such as supermarkets to disclose to their customers the source of certain food products. These generally fall under the category of perishables from foreign countries. Processed foods, on the other hand, are excluded since they have undergone some form of processing, such as grilling, steaming, or curing. Yet even these may eventually be subject to the law, as consumers increasingly want to know about the origins of what they eat. The labeling of food is nothing new. In fact, archaeological evidence indicates that products made 4,000 years ago were marked to show where they had been produced, likely as an indicator of high quality and to beat out other, perhaps inferior brands. These marks were small seals carved out of stone or clay bearing impressed images as well as text, which might have read something like Jericho's finest oil. In today's globalized world, it is common for products to be a combination of ingredients from various countries, sometimes brought together in yet another country from which none of the ingredients were sourced. Determining the country or countries of origin is therefore difficult and time-consuming. This requires more work for those involved in sourcing, processing, and storage, which ultimately increases costs for manufacturers and consumers alike. Fitting information onto the label of a small product is another challenge food makers and sellers must deal with. To overcome this hurdle, abbreviations are now permitted as long as consumers can easily understand what they mean. Most people would understand that HTCHD on a chicken label means hatched and that SLGHTRD means slaughtered, which, because the term carries a negative or violent connotation, is usually substituted with HRVSTD, meaning harvested. Despite the many challenges facing food producers and sellers when it comes to cool, it will probably be expanded in the future. Meanwhile, other nations and regions will develop similar laws. While this is certainly a win for consumers, the food industry will have to continue adapting to a system that may not always work in its favor. Questions 41 to 45 refer to the following article.
Marketing and the Purple Cow. Imagine you are in your car and stopped at a red light. You look up at a wide billboard on which there is a large picture of countless cows grazing on a green hillside. All the cows are black and white with the exception of one, the purple cow. Which will stick out in your memory in the weeks or even years to come? The 4 Ps, product or service, place, price, and promotion, are what companies mainly focus their marketing strategies on, and there has long been the idea that marketing success is achievable only if attention is given to each one. But according to author and former .com executive Seth Godin, a new P should be added to the list. In his popular book, Purple Cow, Transform Your Business by Being Remarkable, Mr. Godin tells marketers to get away from being average and start standing out from the crowd. He argues that you have to be remarkable to get people's attention in markets crammed with advertising. The more exceptional your product or service is, the more people will want it, he points out. But he also emphasizes that making people believe your product or service is extraordinary is just as important as actually having something incredible to sell. Basically, if you want your product to be a purple cow, you need to first determine how it is special. After that, you have to come up with an exciting way to market it. One example of a purple cow is Red Bull, the caffeinated energy drink that tastes like candy. Instead of marketing a beverage for weary business people, the Austrian company that produces it has targeted the younger generation. It links the drink with Formula One races and extreme sports and also the nightclub scene. Because of its cool image, it has become the most popular energy drink ever. With so much run-of-the-mill marketing around, Red Bull and other purple cows get noticed. And while this does not always mean the purple cow is the best, it does mean that it is viewed as being in some way very distinctive.
Questions 46 to 50 refer to the following article.
Australia's plastic cash. The sophistication of modern-day technology has made it easier to counterfeit currencies than ever before. Although paper has been used for centuries to make banknotes, countries and currency issuers are now turning to plastic for security reasons and for its durability. In the 1960s, the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, CSIRO, and Note Printing Australia, a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of Australia, set out to improve Australia's currency. Drawing upon its research in the field of chemistry, the CSIRO developed a plastic film on which banknotes could be printed. The material is highly resistant to tearing, returns to its original shape after folding, and has a much longer lifespan than paper. Australia was not the first country to test out plastic currency. Costa Rica and Haiti introduced plastic banknotes in 1982, which were developed by the science and technology company DuPont. The problem with these notes was that they were not suitable for a tropical climate. Specifically, the ink would rub off the banknotes in warm, humid weather. By 1988, the usability of plastic had reached a new level. This meant that Australia could develop its own plastic money, and it started that year with a $10 note commemorating the country's 200th birthday. The decision was soon made to print all the country's banknotes on plastic, and by 1996 every new banknote in Australia was made of plastic. Australia currently has 5, 10, 20 and 50-cent coins, as well as $1 and $2 coins. Its 5 plastic notes are issued in denominations of 5, 10, 20, 50 and $100. The innovative Australian-made technology that produced the high-quality banknotes also allowed for printing brilliantly colourful artwork on the notes, which depict key individuals and events in the nation's history, as well as images from nature. The notes are also much easier to clean and recycle than paper money. Moreover, the CSIRO developed them with multiple security features to prevent counterfeiting. It did this by combining techniques used in areas such as synthetic chemistry, nanotechnology, and polymer chemistry. Banknotes made of plastic are now used in over 50 countries and regions.
Questions 51 to 55 refer to the following article.
Banksy the Elusive. Banksy has wowed the world with his controversial artwork and mysterious persona. But how exactly has this artist from Bristol, England, attracted so much attention? In spite of his fame, Banksy has managed to keep his face and true identity out of the mainstream media for decades. While some newspapers claim this man of mystery is named Robert Banks, others call him Robin Banks or Robin Gunningham. And none seem sure that whatever alleged photographs of Banksy they've acquired are in fact of him. Some believe he's a former butcher. Others say he's not just one person, but a group of several artists working together. Then there's his artwork. Considered one of the most talented artists of our time, Banksy combines a unique graffiti style with a distinctive stenciling technique. Themes in his drawings are often related to politics or the mass media. Some of his more famous pieces include images of monkeys, soldiers, and one of a masked rioter ready to throw not a bomb, but a flower bouquet. His artwork is considered rebellious with an element of humour, and he has taken many risks in getting it noticed. Warning shots fired by Israeli security forces didn't stop him from drawing on a West Bank barrier. Security personnel didn't catch him sneaking into the British Museum with a fake prehistoric cave painting, which was overlooked for days and then later added to the museum's collection. Media giants can't determine his true identity, even after his work sold to high-profile movie stars including Keanu Reeves and Brad Pitt. And the police haven't managed to arrest him for drawing illegally on public walls, even as he has been able to sell some of his pieces for around $10 million apiece. The secrecy surrounding Banksy, coupled with the rebellious nature of his artwork, has gained the artist many followers in the art world, particularly among younger generations. With a documentary about him nominated for an Oscar in 2010 and increasing worldwide interest in his work, we will certainly be seeing a lot more of Banksy in the future, whether we ever see his face or not.
Questions 56 to 60 refer to the following article. YouTube, a collaboration of creativity and community. The online video platform YouTube was launched on Valentine's Day in 2005, and only a year later, it was receiving 100 million video views per day. It is no wonder that Google acquired the site in 2006 for $1.65 billion, an eye-popping figure to pay for a startup, but nonetheless arguably the best tech deal in history. After all, YouTube is now a $20 billion a year business and the world's leading video search engine. In fact, more video is uploaded to the site every 60 days than what has aired on the big 3 major U.S. television networks over the past 60 years. The bulk of YouTube's revenue comes from advertising. And perhaps because its birthday is also Valentine's Day, the company nurtures very close relationships with its partners. That is, it gives some of its advertising revenue to content creators. This revenue-sharing model has not only attracted more creators, but has also encouraged them to upload higher-quality content, which in turn attracts more viewers and helps the company maintain a competitive edge. There are some YouTubers, as these content creators are called, who have made tens and even hundreds of millions of US dollars from their YouTube channels. People attempting to build one and turn it into a profitable business should expect a long, arduous process. These individuals have to create appealing, professional-looking content. On top of that, they have to promote the channel, engage with their audience, and do all this continually so that people keep coming back for more. While monetizing a YouTube channel takes a combination of time, patience, and, some would say, luck, creating content for the platform has for many people become a career. It has positively impacted society in other ways as well. Although countless YouTube videos are posted solely to entertain, many are made to educate. Content ranges from how-to advice on pretty much everything to language courses and university lectures. As the company evolves and continues to deliver more value, whether that is entertainment or education, YouTube will undoubtedly long remain the world's largest platform for creating, sharing, and discovering video content. Questions 61 to 65 refer to the following article.
Brazil, a food production giant. In only a few decades, Brazil has developed into one of the world's largest food producers. Among grain exporters, it could become the biggest in the next few years, having already caught up with the United States, Russia, the European Union, Ukraine, and Australia. This tropical country also increased its beef exports tenfold in 10 years, and it now boasts the world's largest number of cattle after India, while overtaking Australia as the world's top beef exporter. What is more, Brazil has become the number one exporter of poultry, sugarcane, and soybeans. To understand how this South American nation succeeded in its incredible transformation, first, consider that it has more farmland than any other country on the planet. It uses around 170 million hectares of arable land out of the 600 million it has. And while many think that Brazil has leveled large parts of its rainforest for this land, most of it is actually found south of the Amazon, in an area called the Cerrado. But there is something else even more essential to Brazil's transformation. This is Embrapa, another name for the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, which made the Cerrado green. The company has turned itself into the world's leading research institution in the tropics and does everything from breeding cattle and developing seeds to running a nanotechnology laboratory. Its main achievement, however, has been making soil and crops productive in the Cerrado. Embrapa has done this by crossbreeding species of an African grass called Brachiaria. Its creation now thrives in Cerrado soil, resulting in much greater yields. This means that the region has become pasture land, making possible the remarkable expansion of Brazil's beef herd. Embrapa also turned soybeans native to East Asia into a Brazilian crop. Again, through crossbreeding, the institution found a way to make soybeans grow in tropical climates and the very hot Cerrado region. These are just a few examples of how Embrapa helped turn Brazil into one of the world's largest food producers. The question now is whether the wonders performed in the Cerrado can be repeated in Africa, where the potential for another food production giant almost certainly lies.
Questions 66 to 70 refer to the following article.
Living off the grid. The percentage of the worldwide population with access to electricity has steadily increased over the past several decades. Countless people living in developed countries have long taken a reliable supply of electrical power for granted. Still, some choose to live off the grid, preferring not to be dependent on public utilities to meet their energy needs. Living off the grid sounds ideal to many people. If making power at home were easy, it would be much more common. However, producing enough electricity for refrigerators, washers, dryers, and other appliances requires equipment such as high-tech solar panels, wind turbines, battery banks, and generators. Those who need to generate their own electricity must have the technical know-how to set up, run, and maintain such equipment. People who live off the grid also have to conserve the energy they produce. They must take care not to set the thermostat too high or too low and must make sure to turn off lights and appliances immediately after use. Moreover, these individuals are at the mercy of the elements. The wind can die down or stop altogether, bringing a wind turbine to a standstill. Similarly, a lack of sunshine renders a solar panel virtually useless. Since people cannot always count on these technologies, a gasoline generator is indispensable for providing enough power to see them through. Many people also fail to realize that, while wind and sunlight are free, producing usable electricity by these means still costs more than purchasing it directly from a utility company. A kilogram of solar array is around $6,000, and a wind turbine on a 15-meter tower will run upwards of $5,000. Then there's the $3,000 inverter, which converts the solar energy into the right type of current for the electrical grid, and solar batteries, which range from $5,000 to $7,000. All in all, the equipment costs about $30,000, and that's not including installation fees. Given our current technologies, producing energy at home is not as simple or cost-efficient as many of us may think. Yet it does become easier every year as advances in technology unceasingly take us forward into the future.
Questions 71 to 75 refer to the following article. Dawn of the personal computer. Imagining work or study without a personal computer, PC, is impossible for many of us in this day and age. Yet PCs have only been around for a few decades. So, what first steps led to the modern-day need for these machines? Even though it was not the first computer ever made, the MIT's Altair 8800, introduced as a microcomputer in 1975, certainly got the ball rolling toward the PCs we use today. This computer kit was advertised in technology magazines and sold by mail order. Expecting only to sell a few hundred, the creators sold thousands in just a few weeks, with many customers opting for the already assembled version over the build-it-yourself kit. The kit price was $439. To have it put together before shipping cost nearly $200 more. It had also become clear that many people wanted PCs for their functionality and novelty, which the Altair 8800 makers had not expected. A potentially giant market had presented itself, and in the same year the Altair 8800 was released, other important developments in the early evolution of PCs were gaining pace. An 8-bit microprocessor, the Zilog Z80, was being created, which would be released the following year and widely used in PCs all the way up to the mid-80s. Another 8-bit microprocessor being developed was the 6502 by MOS Technology. Bill Gates and Paul Allen were also at work that year writing a basic compiler for the Altair and established Microsoft. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak designed Apple I, Apple's first kit computer, which used the 6502 processor. That was also the year the first word processing program, Electric Pencil, was released, and Shugart introduced the 5.25-inch floppy drive. With these key components on the market, the personal computing revolution would gather an unstoppable momentum. By 1980, when Commodore launched its popular $299 VIC-20 on the market, Apple had already introduced the Apple II, a computer with a color monitor. Radio Shack had rolled out its TRS-80, and what would become the Computerland franchise opened its first store under the name Computer Shack. In 5 years, the PC had taken the world by storm, forever revolutionizing how people process information. Questions 76 to 80 refer to the following article. The Haunting of Catfish Plantation Restaurant. Ghosts and good food are rarely linked in the popular imagination. Yet paranormal investigators and the owners of Catfish Plantation Restaurant in Texas agree that this establishment offers both. The historic city of Waxahachie is the location of this Cajun food eatery, where many out-of-the-ordinary occurrences have been reported by owners, employees, and visitors. Originally, it was the home of a farmer named Anderson, who built the house in 1895 and later passed it on to his daughter, Elizabeth. In the 1920s, Elizabeth was found murdered inside on her wedding day. A decade later, a farmer named Will had made it his home, but then he too died there under mysterious circumstances. In 1970, another resident, named Carolyn, died of old age in the house. These 3 deaths may explain the restaurant's ghostly activity. The house had been empty for many years when restaurateurs Tom and Melissa Baker purchased it in 1984. Soon after they bought the property, strange things began to happen. For instance, several wine glasses suddenly fell off a counter, and one morning Melissa found a number of cups neatly stacked in the dining area. They were in the middle of the floor. An employee witnessed a basket floating in the kitchen. Another saw a blue light glowing in a room. The misty figure of what appeared to be a bride was by the window. A broken clock still chimes. Doors lock and unlock on their own. Lights and faucets turn on and off inexplicably. Because of the overwhelming number of reports, experts in supernatural activity were called to investigate. Among the spirits they identified was a flirtatious man who touches the shoulders and hair of female guests. Another, who they think might be Carolyn, considers herself to be the property's owner and apparently becomes irritable when household furnishings are rearranged. In 2007, the Bakers sold the restaurant to the Landis family, who invited another group of specialists to investigate. The chief investigator concluded that all the spirits were friendly and positive. Featured on TV programs and in magazines, Catfish Plantation Restaurant and its inhabitants continue to attract patrons who want to enjoy great Cajun food in a spooky ambiance. Questions 81 to 85 refer to the following article.
Dreams and Doubts for Al Maktoum International. Al Maktoum International Airport in Jebel Ali, a port town located about 37 kilometers southwest of the city of Dubai in the Emirate of Dubai, is expected to one day hold the title of World's Largest Airport. Although the airport is still under construction, its runways are already being used for cargo flights, as well as some passenger flights. State-owned carrier Emirates Airlines has plans to make the hub its home base when it's completed in 2027. Named after the ruling family of the Emirate, Al Maktoum International will have 5 parallel runways and see more passenger traffic than the world's current largest airport, Atlanta's 2-terminal Hartfield-Jackson International, followed by Chicago's O'Hare and London's Heathrow airports. The developers of Al Maktoum International envision 4 airport terminals that will handle more flights than any other airport in history. This might surprise locals in Jebel Ali, who can still occasionally spot camels grazing around the site. The entire project, including the construction of on-site apartment buildings, is expected to cost $33 billion and will cover twice the area of Hong Kong Island. However, critics argue that spending this much money on an airport is a huge risk for the emirate, known for its palm-shaped islands and soaring towers. They understand that it is already struggling to pay for its excesses, so they fear that the airport will only pull the emirate further into debt. Its existing airport, Dubai International, which opened in 1960, is among the world's busiest, the main reason for introducing the new one. But while an additional concourse was recently built there to receive more flights, it is Al Maktoum International's future passenger capacity that has grabbed people's attention. This is because the new airport has been designed to serve an incredible 160 million passengers per year, as well as 12 million tons of freight. In contrast, Atlanta handles around 90 million passengers a year. What does Paul Griffiths, CEO of Dubai Airports Company, which manages Al Maktoum International, think about the airport? He said, "We're not expecting it to be a massive runaway success. To create such a large facility is going to take some time. It's by nature a fairly long-term ambition."
Questions 86 to 90 refer to the following article.
Polluting and cleaning the sky. A major problem that big cities face is air pollution, which can be dangerous to people's health as well as to plants and animals. The people of Beijing, the capital of China, have particularly suffered from poor air quality in recent years. As a result, heart disease and asthma rates are higher there than before. While factors causing air pollution in Beijing include local manufacturing and coal burning, approximately 70% of its smog comes from motor vehicles. Air pollution does not only affect urban areas. According to estimates by a team of scientists in India, 75% of deaths there related to air pollution occur in rural areas. Much like in China, the economy in India has grown rapidly along with its manufacturing sector. Consequently, air pollution has also been on the rise. Far away from India's manufacturing plants, however, many who live in rural areas continue to burn wood and other materials to cook food or heat their homes. The pollution caused by these activities is as harmful as that released from the country's factories. As for Sweden, its capital of Stockholm has won the European Green Capital Award, partly because of its efforts to maintain excellent air quality. The city has significantly cut its carbon emissions since the 1990s and continues to improve its public transport and thereby decrease its use of fossil fuels. What's more, Stockholm residents are increasingly cycling to work, which is reducing the number of vehicles on the city's roads. Beijing, once known as the Kingdom of Bicycles, is also trying to get people to commute to work by bicycle instead of by car. Steps are also being taken to remove existing pollution from the air. For example, a Dutch company developed the smog-free tower, which sucks in pollutants and lets out clean air. The first of these buildings was constructed in Holland, and plans are underway to introduce them in other parts of the world. Another solution is to grow giant kelp, which absorbs carbon dioxide. Despite all of these efforts, the World Health Organization predicts that air pollution will continue to increase globally. Clearly, much more needs to be done to ensure that communities can breathe clean air in the future.
Questions 91 to 95 refer to the following article. Coney Island's historic parks. Fairs and carnivals have provided entertainment ever since the Middle Ages. But people were not able to enjoy amusement parks until the late 1800s. Much like modern-day amusement parks, the earliest ones had rides such as carousels and roller coasters. They also featured plenty of other attractions. There was everything from dancing animals to acrobatic shows. 3 of history's most influential amusement parks were in the Coney Island area of Brooklyn, New York City. Their names were Steeplechase Park, Luna Park, and Dreamland. The first of the 3 parks to be built was Steeplechase Park, which opened in 1897. Its most renowned attraction was a course consisting of a long set of steel tracks, each with a mechanical horse. Visitors would get up on the horses and then race to the finish line. The park's founder was George Tillieu, who wanted to create a place for family-friendly entertainment. Despite a devastating fire in 1907, It was around for much longer than Coney Island's two other major amusement parks. The Tillieu family continued to operate Steeplechase Park until 1964. Fred Thompson and Skip Dundee opened Luna Park in 1903. What made it different from other parks at that time were its 250,000 light bulbs, which brightly illuminated its castle-like towers. The park also specialized in travel-related rides. For instance, visitors could imagine they were at the North Pole, at the bottom of the sea, and even on the moon. And they could take a simulated elephant ride through the streets of Delhi, India. Similar tours of Japan, Ireland, and Southern Europe were also available. All of the fun would come to an end in 1944 when the park was destroyed by a fire. The last of Coney Island's three famous parks was Dreamland. Opened 1 year after Luna Park, Dreamland was designed by William Reynolds. He wanted all the attractions to be even more impressive than those in nearby Luna Park. Its buildings were bigger, and 1 million light bulbs lit up its streets and rides. But the park would not stay open for long. In 1911, after only 7 years in operation, Dreamland burned down. Now, Coney Island's famous parks are a part of the past, but their influence on modern-day amusement parks lives on. Questions 96 to 100 refer to the following article.
Hudson's Bay Company. Operating since 1670, Hudson's Bay Company, HBC, is the oldest continuously operating merchandising company in the world. Originally headquartered in London, HBC moved to what is now Canada and is currently based in Toronto. It began when two French explorers, Pierre-Esprit Radisson and Merdard Chouard de Groseilliers, found a rich area for fur trapping deep in the northern woodlands of North America. Subsequently, they sought financial support to start a fur trading company. Their plan was to reach the interior via Hudson Bay, but not finding the financing they needed in the Americas, the pair eventually took their idea to England and asked Prince Rupert, a cousin of King Charles II, for support. The prince put together a group that would finance their needs, and in 1668 the Nonsuch, the first ship of their expedition, headed for Hudson Bay. Before long, HBC would have significant control over the Hudson Bay area, and at times it even enforced certain laws in the region. Its business dealings included hiring trappers, ordering and shipping trade items, and organizing fur auctions. Natives also brought furs to these auctions to trade for necessities such as knives, kettles, and blankets. As time went by, HBC became increasingly involved with settlements across the continent. This later enabled the company to sustain itself when changing fashion trends in the 19th century diminished the importance of the fur trade. North American gold rushes in the mid-1800s soon introduced a new type of customer, one who bought goods with cash instead of fur. HBC transformed many of its trading posts into shops, stocking them with a much wider range of items. Following the advice of Richard Burbridge, a former director at Harrods department store in London, the company dramatically modernized in 1912 and soon opened 6 department stores in Victoria, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Saskatoon, and Winnipeg. The scope of its business at this point had also been widened to include transportation as well as oil and gas. HBC still has a big market share among Canada's mass merchandisers, with annual retail sales of around 10 billion Canadian dollars, not bad for a company that's about 350 years old. Now, it is once again adapting to its environment by charging forward with e-commerce operations. This will help take this longest-standing company into the future and perhaps even into the centuries to come.